Welcome into the show on this Friday edition. You're going to hear from the White House in just a few minutes this morning. President Biden is going to tell us about more sanctions aimed at Russia. And the new line from the Biden White House is that all of this inflation that you're experiencing right now, a 40-year high in prices, it's because we're calling it the Putin price spike. It's all Putin's fault for all of this inflation and high gas prices.
Well, I do love a good alliteration. So I
Putin's
appreciate that marketing slogan. Thank you to whoever came up with it. We're also going to talk about censorship and how it is affecting your view of, well, everything, really. We're going to have a philosophical, stick around for philosophy. That's a tease. News and philosophy.
And a big update on Ukraine. President Putin just a few minutes ago making some markets excited with his prospect of peace, while at the same time we find out that members of Congress have been profiting off of this war in Ukraine. I'm sure you'll be surprised by their stock plays in the days and moments before we went in with any kind of, well, we didn't declare war, but we've certainly sent billions of dollars in war to that region. So all of that as this show starts on this Friday morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the show on this Friday. We've got your pet picks at the end of today's show. You can always email them to us throughout the week. And on Fridays, we love to show off your pet picks here. So we kind of ease into the weekend without so much pain and suffering that we've had to deal with over the past few days. So you can email us pets@morninginvest.com. We also have a daily newsletter, and I saw a couple hundred of you signed up for our newsletter yesterday. So important to do that, because as big tech censorship clamps down on independent news stations like this, where we're covering stories they don't want you to hear, we need a place to be able to connect with you. You know, if YouTube bans our show, kicks us off like they did for a week a number of months ago when we brought you the truth about vaccines and coverage, we need a place to be able to communicate with you. And so we have a newsletter, which goes out every day. We cover big stories, but also it's a way for us to email you in case something happens here. We can connect with you, say, hey, come on over here to this other new channel we had to create. Again, morninginvest.com is the place to go. Morninginvest.com is the place to go.
Absolutely right. You'll get a teaser about what we're going to talk about in the show, plus a lot of other tidbits, like how do you speak pig? Researchers have figured that out. Make sure you're subscribed. Read that story today. That's the funnest one. We're going to get to the less fun ones right now, which is inflation. So overnight, economists confirming that the inflation number is now at 7.9%. That's a 40-year high. So think about it. Inflationary numbers have not been this high since 1982. Some of you may not even have been alive then. So what does that mean? That means that everything you buy is 7.9% higher. Now, the White House has taken to blaming this on the crisis in Ukraine and Russia, when these inflationary forces were already in an upturn starting well into last year. But now the White House wants us all to think that this conflict is a pivot point.
Yeah, gas prices, of course, this morning at a station in West Hollywood is now under $8 a gallon. Just under $8 a gallon for gasoline in Los Angeles, just outside of West Hollywood. The average, think about that for a second. The average price was $2.46 when Joe Biden was inaugurated as president. $2.46. So is this all Putin in the past few days? I mean, Peter Doocy asked yesterday Jen Psaki in a press conference, says, are you guys going to blame Putin for everything that you guys are dealing with up until the midterm elections? And she was not happy about that question. But it's a legitimate question.
Yes.
Now the line of attack from this White House, the dialogue going forward is that we know that you're paying a lot more for your bread, for your food. We're encouraging farmers to keep plowing the fields. We want you to keep doing this. Gasoline is through the roof. But this is all Putin's fault. It's a load of crap.
Well,
what
we
don't
already
they have to do with
warned.
house prices? What does Putin have to do with your house prices and rent?
What don't the Democrats blame on Russia?
Well, we already were warned well before the conflict started that we could see an 8% inflationary rate out of the White House, out of the Fed. So this is under what they had expected. And by most accounts, they were watching for conflict in Ukraine, but not necessarily expecting it.
By the
right?
way, yeah, and gas prices were I went back into our archives here on this show, gas prices, I was covering gas hike price stories in November of last year, October and November of last year here on this show. Nothing to do with Putin. In fact, Biden back then, remember, tapped the strategic petroleum reserves?
Yes.
Back then, and as his poll numbers were collapsing under the weight of these gas prices. I mean, so all of this you could say perhaps is as it relates to the elites. All of the American elites that run this show and want higher prices. David, you mentioned this yesterday. We talked about Wall Street. We talked about Wall Street reaping the benefits of this. Obviously, Saudi Arabia reaping the benefits of this. Has nothing to do with Putin. Nothing, almost nothing to do with Putin at all. It's elites in America that are frankly driving this oil shock, as Chris Black writes in this great piece this morning about America's ruling elite responsible for the oil shock, not Putin.
Well, at the same time, the Senate has not passed budget. And so the government continues to run on debt and then create money in order to keep up with its debt, right? And so basic economics, if you just read Econ 101 book, will tell you that when the government prints money and creates money, which it did in the last 2 years since the pandemic to the tune of $4 trillion, then that floods an economy with money that is not as a result of natural growth and inflation as a result. The government wants to take absolutely no responsibility for policy and natural economic forces. So it's looking to point the finger. And this is a very convenient thing to do, even though the United States got less than 10% of its oil last year from Russia. We're saying, well, now prices are higher because we can't get our hands on oil. We can. We still can.
Well, even yesterday, Ted Cruz, not that we want to hear from that guy, but Ted Cruz called on the White House to say, well, now, hey, the natural gas pipeline, everything you guys were going to shut down and said you couldn't do, now's an opportunity for you guys to crank this stuff back up again. Even those from North Dakota are saying, hey, a truly patriotic move right now would be to restart Keystone XL pipeline, get these things back up and running. Of course, that's going to be a non-starter for a lot of these guys. But I couldn't help but think about something Jimmy Carter did. We love to encourage a little bit of historical thinking here on this show, right? I was a history major, so I have a fondness for it. And if we don't understand history, of course, we tend to repeat it, and we often ignore it in the United States. Well, Jimmy Carter, you may have forgotten, nearly 50 years ago, as Justin tweets here, Jimmy Carter attempted to take on the energy powers that be and transition America towards energy independence through clean energy. He led by example, and he put solar panels on the White House roof, you'll recall. He was laughed at, mocked, and Ronald Reagan took them down, and Carter was right.
I don't recall I was born in the Carter administration.
I was born in the Ford administration. Can you believe that? But just to think about that for a second, this is one of the reasons why you want to look at history here, why Jimmy Carter didn't win. I mean, Jimmy Carter was basically kept from a second term because of what the oil companies. He was going after the oil companies. Mm-hmm. He was going after big oil. He was in a big way, trying to move the United States away from the Middle East oil. And this back channel deal that emerged between the big oil companies and the Republicans and Ronald Reagan basically led to his defeat. Now, you could argue, was he a terrible president? You can go all the way down that rabbit hole if you want. But you have to start to question things a little bit. You want to open up a little bit and think about, well, wait a second. If we wouldn't have had this reliance on foreign oil,
right?
If we wouldn't have had this reliance on the Middle East, if we wouldn't have had this cushy relationship with the Saudi Arabia, if we wouldn't have had military bases throughout the Middle East, we wouldn't have invaded Iraq. Imagine, we might not have even had 9/11. Think about this, right? If we were energy independent. If we were energy independent and we didn't have to fight wars for foreign oil, we didn't have to go into Kuwait, which was an oil-based war. Mm-hmm. Just think about that for a minute. Just allow yourself to soak that in. I know it's kind of freaky to think about, but President Reagan comes into the White House, reverses course on this energy policy. Doubles down on big oil in the Middle East, rips the solar panels off the White House roof, and leads us on a different path.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I mean, it's so hard at this point when you know that the world has had the opportunity to transition for decades and chosen not to. I was reading this excellent piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning called, let me get you the title. Economic Blacklist of Russia Marks New Blow for Globalization. And it's a 10,000 foot, 30,000 foot view at globalization, because the idea that we should just have whatever we want from all over the world with no cost to us as citizens, no cost to geopolitics, and no cost to the earth, it's a fallacy, right? And so we're starting to see the cracks in that. And so what do we do now when we could have weaned ourselves off of this? And maybe this settles down, right? I can't see the writing on the walls for what happens for the end of this conflict. But I thought this about COVID. If we don't learn from the coronavirus pandemic that each nation needs to be less dependent on foreign imports, then this will all have been for nothing. Well, it seems to have all been for nothing. If we don't learn from this crisis, from high inflation, like what is it going to take for us to learn independence as each nation, right? Each economy, I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm feeling dark about it, if I'm honest with you.
Well,
I think, yeah.
I'm sorry, if I can chime in.
Please.
The thing about with the oil prices, I had mentioned this yesterday, and I think even like the day before, because I think this gets missed by so many people. The gas prices have very little to do with Biden. They have nothing to do with the closing of the XL pipeline. It was all literally orchestrated by investors in big oil that were concerned that big oil was not bringing in enough returns to the investors. So they made them stop stockpiling, releasing oil to the market because they wanted to drive the price up so they could make more money. It literally is these elite investors in big oil that are causing this. That is where it's coming from. And it's like, we know that, but there's still the talking point ends up being like, oh, well, they closed down XL or Biden's doing this. It's not. It was very specifically Wall Street orchestrated this.
Right. And now a new proposal from Democrats would have big oil paying higher taxes on profits only, right? And so any corporation knows how to just not report profits in any given year, but fine. And with those increased tax revenues, which are a pie in the sky, then American people would receive quarterly stimulus. That has about as much chance of passing as I do to get in line for the Queen of England. So, we want to say, oh, we're going to go after big oil. No one really has the appetite for that. And big oil is beholden to their shareholders. They have a fiduciary to their shareholders to produce these big profits. That's how the system works. You can't fault them for really, using the system. We'll talk about this later when we talk about congressional representatives investing in stocks when they do see the writing on the wall. But, if you've got the system and you play the system, it's one of those things you can't hate the player, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, you want to tell us, maybe we need some calmness. Maybe we need some peace, because we're about to talk about Ukraine in a second, and we're going to dive deep into, there's a whole lot of stories out of Ukraine this morning that are going to turn your head. You're not going to see these stories in the mainstream media. I guarantee you won't. And we'll cover those stories. We're going to talk about censorship this morning from one of your favorite search engines, DuckDuckGo. A lot of people think, hey, DuckDuckGo, it's the good alternative to Google. Maybe not this morning anymore. We'll tell you about what they're doing. And we're going to give you an update on Justin Trudeau and a word from their administration in Canada that just came out just a short time ago. So we will tell you about all of that and more. But first, you want to tell us about our friends over at Headspace?
Yes, we do. Headspace is an app that helps bring you peace of mind. Do you ever feel like you can't transition easily from being, say, a mother or a father, a spouse, and then a working person? You feel like the world just has you pulled in a bunch of different directions and you can't focus. That's where Headspace comes in. It's an app that helps you find different sleep, stress management, and meditation programs that is with you all the time, assuming you bring your phone wherever you go. They have age-appropriate meditations as well. I use them a lot for my kids, especially during the summer months when they are overexposed to each other and can't see context. When they're arguing a lot, I say, okay, everyone's going to sit down and take a meditation. In fact, did you know that science proves that taking 20 minutes to yourself helps you lower your stress hormones and reduce conflict in your life? This is actually true. true. I have been making an effort to do that when Clayton pisses me off, and it works.
What?
It works with conflict management. When I start to feel myself transitioning to
mirror.
the Hulk,
Right.
and want to say Hulk smash, I take a minute and then I realize I'm not quite as upset about that as I was 20 minutes ago. Maybe.
Headspace has saved our marriage.
Many a times, and our sibling relationships inside this house. So if you feel like Headspace could help you, you should give it a try at headspace.com/invest, and you'll get 1 free month of their entire mindfulness library. This is the best Headspace has to offer. So go to headspace.com/invest. And again, make this a part of your everyday routine. It does help because, the human brain was not meant to be pulled in so many different directions and multitasking. It was like the buzzword of the 90s, right? But now we know how hard it is on the human brain. Headspace really helps you to get into a space so that you can win at all aspects of your life, not feel like you're just not batting 100 at any given one. Headspace.com/invest. Thank you so much for their support of the show.
Well, something you might not see across mainstream media is what's happening in Ukraine to the residential areas in Ukraine. This is something that, again, has been shared over and over now on social media until social media blocks it, hides it, doesn't allow you to know about it, right? We're supposed to just think of Russia invades Ukraine, bad, Ukraine is great, and the military is being slaughtered, and we need to stand up and support this military in Ukraine against the Russian aggressors. But it's not just as black and white as that, is it? Right? There's much more to this story. In fact, so much so that people across Ukraine have been walking up to soldiers demanding that they leave their neighborhoods where they've been setting up shop. In fact, residential residents and in residential areas are complaining that the Ukrainian military, the Azov Brigade, which of course is, we've talked about that here, the brigade that is the Nazi-backed brigade, basically how would you call them? Not sort of like this like separatist piece of the Ukrainian military.
The far right.
The far right group, the Azov Brigade, of course. We've seen all the swastikas and there are the videos that they share of themselves saluting Hitler and so forth. And residents of Ukraine are saying, get out of my neighborhood. Why are you putting missiles on the top of our kindergarten? Why are you setting up shop in our schools? Why? Get out of here. Here's just a sampling of what these residents, I want you to read the subtitles. This is just one piece of footage. I mean, there are hundreds of them from across Ukraine that are being blocked and banned because this is not part of the narrative that you're allowed to hear. But here's, with subtitles, these residents yelling at these soldiers. These are Ukrainian soldiers and Ukrainian residents.
Тихо. Вот, начали орать.
Вот тут вот. Поставили
Зафиксируй.
пушки, скорее всего. Сейчас будет обратка. Вот стоит 2 школы. Уберите пушки. Уберите.
Берите в поле пушки.
Или партия.
Зачем?
Успокойся. Лицей. У нас папа начальник лицея военного. Вот
Все,
лицей
хорошо,
стоит,
хорошо.
отдела.
При-
Нам сказали,
ну.
здесь пушки стоят. Мы вышли.
Кто вам такое сказал?
Нет, здесь
Мы это
стоят
слышали.
пушки. Здесь стоят
Вы,
пушки.
Я заведующая детского сада. У него муж лейтенант, летчик.
И что? И что?
Нет,
И вы сейчас
здесь
слива-
стол
и вы хотите
стоят.
слить
Нет,
наши
здесь
позиции?
стол стоят.
Что вы хотите? Кто на вас летит?
Да будет обратка.
So interesting, right? Why you want to like leak our positions? You want to give away our coordinates? Or is that exactly what you want to do, right?
Yes, we want you to get out of here so war is not near schools.
Or is it part of a, want to go down the conspiracy theory rabbit hole, but why are you setting up on top of residential buildings? Why are you, here's a leaked video of another, this is part of the Azov Brigade, War Gonzo reporting this story of drone footage. So look here on the screen. These are individuals, these are part of the Azov Brigade setting up on the rooftops of residential buildings. Look at that. Right
Well,
there.
this falls right into like CIA territory, in my opinion, because what this looks like is a provocation because the Russia has said they really only want to hit military targets. Well, they're making schools military targets now so that they can have that propaganda to say, hey, guess what? They attack schools. They attack hospitals.
Right. So we set up on top of a
Wait.
kindergarten.
I'm not following
Okay.
your.
Well, think about this. Why have we seen what would help, right, the propaganda machine of Ukraine being hit by Russian atrocities, right, by
If they fire from those places.
They fire from those places, and then Russians
Because if they
attack
fire
those
from them,
places.
exactly. Because then all of a sudden that place is a military target.
So here are residential buildings. These are apartment buildings, right? Where the Azov Brigade has set up on the rooftops of said residential buildings. Like if you really cared about the residents of these buildings, maybe you don't set up on top of those buildings.
Right.
I mean, again, this is just an idea, just a thought. Here's a kindergarten. Why did you decide to set up howitzers at the kindergarten? Like, just a question. And I'm sure, and exactly, this is not me raising this question. But videos
are we
being shared
getting
all
into a
across
chicken or egg type of thing where they're like, oh, we're trying to protect the kindergarten? Right.
How are you protecting
You don't have to protect the kindergarten from on top
with
of
howitzers? Yeah, and you also don't have to set up anti-aircraft guns at a kindergarten because those will be targeted by aircraft.
Right.
Like those
see the
people
point?
said, put them out in the field.
Yeah, put them out. Why are you putting them? Again, these are
But if
Ukrainian
it's
residents.
an anti-aircraft missile and aircraft comes in, does it shoot it down away from the kindergarten, right? This is ignorance because I don't know how war works.
Well, that's what the
Again.
people were saying. Like, put those weapons in the field. They don't have to be right on top of the school. It feels like the reason that they're putting them right on top is so that that actual building now becomes a military target instead of the field that they would hit away from it.
And I'm bringing you this story. I don't have the answers on it. I'm just telling you what's being shared among Ukrainians that's being blocked on social media. We are sharing it here. We might be blocked for sharing it. I don't know. These are Ukrainians who are saying you are setting up the Azov Brigade, which we've highlighted is the Nazi-backed portion of the Ukrainian military, setting up howitzers, anti-aircraft guns, using residential buildings, schools, kindergartens, hospitals, etc.
And this is not us calling them extremists, right? The United Nations has warned Ukraine as recently as 2 years ago that the Azov Brigade was a dangerous force and that Ukraine was not doing enough to tamp down their militarization, right? And so what's interesting now, I think, someone in the chat just said, well, you guys sound like Russian apologists. Absolutely not. We're against all violence and all war. And, when you start making this about a black and white issue, it's when you're falling prey to what the politicians want you to think. And it really is not as clear cut as it would seem. In fact, now in Australia, the government has sanctioned some citizens for saying things like, there are pro-Russian areas inside Ukraine. That is true. There are pro-Russian areas inside Ukraine that wanted to join Russia, that wanted to become separate. And now Russia is saying those people, citizens, for saying that will be sanctioned. Australia is a free country, supposedly.
Supposedly.
So when a free country starts sanctioning unsanctioned thoughts, we're in trouble, right? And so no one here should make apologies for Russia, but no one should also just decide what is best for people who live in Ukraine either.
Right. If the people of Ukraine are sharing these videos and they're saying, we do not want members of the military, specifically the Azov Brigade, setting up howitzers, anti-aircraft guns, and other things right on our front lawn, right on top of our schools. We run 2 schools in this neighborhood. Like, why are you putting them right here? Because the propaganda is fantastic right on television when, Russia attacked a school. Like we saw the video the other day, right? Russia attacks a maternity ward. No one's killed. We don't understand why no one was killed in this maternity ward. And then, of course, we hear from the Russian press person, Lushenko, came out and said, well, that actually was non-functioning and had been shut down for years. And the Ukrainians were using it as a military staging
Where'd
ground.
the pregnant ladies come from then?
Well, where did all the dead bodies that moved when the wind blew their covers off come from?
Right. All I'm saying is we're reporting the stories. We're bringing you the stories you're not going to see in the mainstream media, bringing you the stories that are out there from Ukrainians themselves. You can decide on your own, but you're not going to see this on your 6 o'clock news. You're not going to hear about these Ukrainians who are upset that other Ukrainian military is setting up in their own backyard. Maybe you're not even going to hear this, but thanks to the Washington Post this morning, this is just moving across the wire a few minutes, just a short time ago, more than 40 GOP senators are now calling on President Biden to get those aircraft to Ukraine. These are the aircraft, of course, that would basically lead us into World War III. Now we want you to do this. We want you to somehow get this aircraft there. We know you're not a member of NATO, but we want to funnel these aircraft there anyway, even though we said that this would lead us to World War III. I mean, this is exactly what Putin said would lead us into a broader war.
Right. But there's appetite for it, even though the Pentagon yesterday said we do not want aircraft going into Ukraine through Poland. We don't support that. These are elected leaders, though, that do support it. So we have to sort of put an asterisk there because everything an elected leader does is for their own branding, right? So they can call on that. That doesn't mean they know what's best when it comes to war, or that they even can intervene Pentagon decisions.
No, and we should also point out that the vast amount of Russian propaganda, the vast amount of Russian censorship that has existed is profound. It is large, but the narrative that you're being force-fed by your mainstream media is, of course, that Ukraine they are heroes in this. That Zelensky is a hero. That the Ukrainian government needs to be propped up by the West. They are it's an extension of democracy. They stand for our democratic values, and that's the narrative that you're being spoon-fed. And of course, it's not as black and white as that at all. In fact, Congress sees the opportunity to benefit from all of this, and members of Congress this morning are reaping the benefits of this. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene is coming under a lot of fire this morning for money that she's made for buying, investing in Lockheed Martin just 2 days before declaring war is big business. So she sends out tweets. She sends out a tweet that says, "War and rumors of war is incredibly profitable and convenient." And just like that, the media has a lie to use as the reason for our shattered economy and out of control inflation. What a sad existence must be to shill for globalism and America last politicians.
But according to recent filings, she then went and invested in Lockheed Martin, which makes weaponry, to the tune of between $1,000 and $15,000, which is interesting, right? Because she has a large following on social media. She says these things about how war-based businesses will profit based on conflict. And then she then goes and profits. Why does the SEC not care so much about her? This is, to me, Elon Musk territory, right?
Right.
You use your influence. You say something that benefits something that you are an investor in. So,
we talked about it here on the show before, but it's worth bringing up again. Of course, the Stock Act. I forget what year the Stock Act was. I think it was like 2012 at the time that Congress.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
I think President Obama at the time said, "Hey, I'll get this to me. I will sign this," and he did. And then, like a year later, all of it was like gutted. They started like removing pieces of the Stock Act so that now you didn't have to disclose, or they didn't have to make announcements about who was investing. So it's like Congress.
Well, and they did that.
They went. What's that?
They did it behind the scenes. They didn't even do it publicly. There was no public announcement that they gutted it. They just quietly, secretly, behind the scenes did it.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, so we've talked about the Stock Act here before, but it exists. Aren't they supposed to adhere to that? Nancy Pelosi making millions of dollars off of investing in companies and then getting on the phone and having conversations with the likes of Tim Cook and others.
Right. Marjorie Taylor Greene did the same thing with Pfizer. Even though she doesn't want the vaccine herself, she definitely was willing to invest in Pfizer, knowing that millions of Americans would. So again, I come back to it's not right, but I can't hate the player. I hate the game.
Yeah, I mean, like she knows, like I'm going to have these meetings. We are going to send $13 billion into this war, into this conflict. And guess what? I'm going to invest a few days before we do it because I have insider information about it. That's exactly what happens here. Did we lose our signal?
I don't think so.
Okay, I just saw someone in the chat. Edward Smith says lost you. I just want to make sure.
Oh, no, we're here.
Yeah. So again, this is exactly what's been happening. It's going to continue to happen. And again, like as Robert Reich tweets, did you know that 51 members of Congress and their spouses own up to $5.8 million worth of defense contractor stocks? Personally, I don't think members of Congress should profit from wars they send other people to fight.
Okay. And then let's one more time go back to this Washington Post headline. More than 40 GOP senators urge Biden to transfer aircraft. Are these things unrelated? it's very hard to say that they're not.
Right. I would love to know the 40 that, I mean, see how, what their stock portfolio looks like. Do you stand to benefit? Are you an investor in these particular, in these particular companies, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, et cetera, that stand to make this money from this transfer of aircraft?
I really hate saying this, but this is the way that I honestly feel. And I've been posting, on Facebook that I support the Russian people, and people are calling me a Russian apologist and stuff. But I honestly, truly feel that if you support what the United States is doing, you're going to be on the wrong side of history, because it is a very corrupt government where they're obviously making money on it to promote war. We're in all these places all over the world doing atrocities. And, and we're saying that anybody who doesn't support American values needs to, we need to take them out of power or whatever. And it's like these other countries are not doing anything near what we're doing. And so I just feel like, it's hypocrisy to hear people say how bad Russia is and not look back at ourselves.
Again, you don't have to support a government to support a people, right? It's nationalism
Right.
that's divisive in this. And I've been doing some reading about the history between Russia, Ukraine, and Poland, and that area. Did you know that Ukraine literally means borderland? Because it has always been seen as something that borders this territory, and that the major divisive lines were really drawn on religion rather than anything else. And so we're talking about major humanitarian divisive lines that have been in place forever. Why can't we support humans, no matter what side of a border they live on, no matter what religion they support, no matter what government they support? And it's shocking to me to hear people asking for boycotts inside a country that will hurt people who are not politicians.
Right. Yeah, and exactly. And when we talk about these sanctions now moving across the wire, and they're going to vote on this, U.S. G7 allies may strip Russia of their most favored nation status. This happening right now as we speak. And so what that would mean, he's going to announce plans at 10:15 a.m. President Biden will to do that. They're going to announce actions to continue to hold Russia accountable for its unprovoked and unjustified war on Ukraine. But of course, at the same time, going to be sending, aircraft to these regions. So unprovoked. Like, I love that it's unprovoked, by the way. Like that. I love how that's worked into this Reuters piece. The White House says it's an unprovoked. Oh, yeah. So when NATO's literally in your backyard, being caught red-handed in biochemical laboratories, among other things, and funneling billions of dollars to this country via NATO.
Yes.
Like, that's unprovoked. Like, what would we do? What would we do if Russia did the same thing, or if China did the same thing to us in Canada or Mexico?
Right.
What
And
would
how
we do?
long did Putin warn us? How long has he been warning us and telling us, look, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this? I think he has given us
14
plenty
years.
of warning.
14 years, yeah. Or even longer. I mean, but anyway, so we have that. We're going to see what's going to happen with this G7 nation status. Meanwhile, we don't even need to go very far from us sending money from the United States government. We can just have police forces across the United States sending extra gear into Ukraine. The United States police have so much extra gear, according to Vice News, that they're sending it to Ukraine. Police departments around the United States are donating tactical gear to Ukraine, whose annual defense budget is smaller than the New York Police Department's.
What extra gear? Where has this been kept?
When I was on Fox, we used this is something that I Tucker and I totally agreed on this, because I can't stand the massive military budget. I can't stand it. I think it's disgusting, and one of the things that Tucker really couldn't stand also was the militarization of our police forces in the United States. So why does a small town police force in Maine need an armored Humvee? Yeah, like for what? For the 4th of July festival that could go wrong? These are the types of, they have all sorts of decommissioned, not even decommissioned, leftover military equipment that they then use and they funnel to these police departments. And what's brilliant about this strategy is that now it gives them another opportunity, these defense contractors, another opportunity to make all kinds of money. In fact, I have a really interesting take on this, if I can pull it up here on the screen, which is from, she's an anti-imperialist. She says, we literally saw this with defense contractors dumping weapons, aid to allies, right? We're just going to give it to you. And then what happens is when we dump it to our allies, we then replace them ASAP to artificially create a wartime economy. So we're basically saying we're going to dump all of this equipment to our allies, but we need to now order new stuff. That's exactly what happens.
In the case of Afghanistan, we just left it for whoever.
Yeah, but now we
Yes.
need new stuff, right? So we're going to leave
Right.
it, and now Al-Qaeda, or now the Taliban, is the second or third most armed group in the world. And now, because we left all that stuff there, we need new stuff. We need to order new stuff. So that's why our military budget is now over $800 billion.
I mean, I get it. I like to have new things too.
I do too.
Everybody does.
And you know, your armored Humvee that you bought last year is
I
out
need
of
a
fashion.
new one.
It's out of fashion.
I can't
Well, and I
just
think that's
drive
been-
around in an old Humvee. And
You need a blue one.
in fact, I want to say it was in the fall, we put a story in the newsletter about how 15% of guns that are in police and military control are missing, right? That the United States has so many that we have a logistical problem, a supply chain problem, keeping track of them. And a lot of them end up like Mexico, you know, Colombia, gun cartels, because they just, you know, part of this story goes is maybe there's like a low paid police officer who maybe leaves an old gun somewhere for some kind of money drop, and then that gun goes missing and he doesn't have to do it. He just can get a replacement from whoever his employer is or her employer. And sometimes that is how it goes. Sometimes they're just legitimately lost in conflict. No one goes back for them. But I mean, the United States is a country with so many guns that we cannot even keep track of them.
Philadelphia, a few days ago, Philadelphia 12-year-old was shot by police, 12-year-old, because he had a gun with a laser sight on it. I mean, like, this is what's happening in the United States of America. Like, police took down a 12-year-old. His name is TJ. He had a nickname. He had a gun with a laser sight on it.
What does that mean? Like a
tactical,
like a real gun.
Yeah, like, this is America. Maybe he, instead that police department in Philadelphia, they could have donated these, all of their extra laser sighted weapons that they get, and they can donate those to Ukraine as well.
But what's going to happen there? Like, those are going to get into skilled hands. Those are going to get into the hands of people who will use them responsibly. We think civilians won't be harmed by dumping guns into one location.
No, it's always better when you have a lot of guns and a lot of missiles in a place. I mean, things always turn out better.
That
like
sounds safe.
We see that in Afghanistan, right?
Sure.
Afghanistan.
So it's kind of an aside, but related to that. But I found a subreddit yesterday called "Farmers Stealing Tanks," and it's like an entire subreddit of videos of because there's like these Russian tanks keep getting stuck in the mud in Ukraine. And farmers will come out with their tractors, and basically Ukraine has said, if you capture a tank, it's yours. And so you have these farmers that are literally like going out and just dragging tanks out of the mud and taking them home. So
It's a finders keepers.
Yeah, in fact, there's tanks showing up on eBay because people are capturing these tanks and they're putting them up on eBay for sale now.
Yeah, I saw
Wow.
one yesterday where a guy had found an abandoned surface-to-air missile launcher, like a giant truck. It looks like a tank, but it's got this giant missile pack on it. And it's just abandoned. He's like, well, I guess this is mine now. So it's like that gun issue. But like, what happens when suddenly like the world is flooded with just ordinary citizens running around with tanks?
Wow.
Yeah. Well, the next story we want to cover is all the censorship that's going on. You might have noticed a thing or two on your news feed lately. It seems one-sided, doesn't it? Like if you're tuning into Facebook, you're tuning into Twitter, you're on your search engine of choice. It seems like it's leaning one way, and you'd be right about that. In fact, new information this morning about Facebook and Instagram, but also DuckDuckGo. Reuters reporting exclusive: Facebook and Instagram to temporarily allow for calls for violence against Russians.
So it's not just what you can't say, it's what you can say, right? So Facebook is saying these are forms of political expression that would normally violate our rules. That is calling for assassination of political leaders. But we're going to allow it. We're going to let it slide.
Let it go.
Right now.
Yeah, it's fine now.
And now Russia is saying to the United States, you need to reel in Meta. You cannot have a social network or a company out there that is calling for assassination of global leaders. But it seems like that's okay. Meanwhile, DuckDuckGo, the search engine that is beloved by those who oppose Google's ranked search, now says that it will rank down pro-Russian information. So you see here two perfect examples of what you can say and what you can't.
So here's Gabriel Weinberg, the CEO, founder of DuckDuckGo, right? Here's what he has to say. Here's his little avatar. He says, like so many others, he tweeted, I am sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think we all agree with that. And the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. We all agree with that. Hashtag stand with Ukraine. At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search engine updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. And he goes on to say, in addition to downranking sites associated with disinformation, we also often place news modules and information boxes at the top of DuckDuckGo's search results, where they are seen and clicked the most, by the way, to highlight quality information for rapidly unfolding topics.
All right, we got to let David take this one because we got all kinds of caps lock and emoji texts from David over this last night. He was like, what?
Yeah, because that's the reason I installed that was because they were supposed to be different. And I even not retweeted, but asked that person on that tweet, who is deciding what is disinformation? Like when you do this, who is making that decision?
Who are your fact
It's not like DuckDuckGo has all this knowledge to be like, oh, this is the right one. So who are they going to promote? Most likely CNN, Fox, MSNBC, who we have proven over and over again continually spread propaganda and show misinformation or disinformation. And so you're never going to get that right.
No, and that's the thing. It's like we've reported here just this week on these biolabs, right? When USA Today ran their fact check story. And in their fact check story, they literally have a Ukrainian unnamed source, a Ukrainian government official, and a State Department official saying this information, even though it's on the State Department's own websites, right? So this has been totally discredited. So when you have your fact checkers or Facebook, we know that there's members of the military, former members of the CIA who've been Facebook fact checkers. Like that's who you're getting your fact checking from. These people who lie for a living, by the way. As Mike Pompeo said, these are people who lie for a living. The CIA that's their whole purpose.
They are allowed to.
Is to spread disinformation.
It's like an important part of their job to be allowed to.
Right.
Right. Clayton and I were talking about this morning because media theorists, right? So I have a sociology degree with an emphasis in mass media. So this is something that I've studied and I've thought a lot about. I have a master's degree in this field. And I have read John Milton, right? And the idea, this is hundreds of years old, that in a free marketplace of ideas, truth will prevail. But John Milton had no idea that there would be such a thing as algorithms, right? And so it matters. Even the way you type something into search is what results you're going to get, right? There is no such thing anymore as a free marketplace of ideas. And it becomes worse based on this algorithm, right? So I was just trying to think, does the algorithm do this because it thinks that we as a populace are too stupid to understand what truth is, so it needs to give it to us? Or is it as simple as the narrative that they want us to latch onto is the narrative that they profit from? And I think the reality is a combination of all. No, I don't want to say that. I don't think that we are too stupid at all. I don't think we are given a chance.
Right.
And so that's what really has me dark about this morning is because we've basically, we talked about in the first segment that we've perverted all market forces, right? When it comes to money and economy and finance. But we are perverting market forces when it comes to information as well. And that's what's turning my stomach and making me so mad.
It's information is one thing, right? But then we also look at sort of like we could extrapolate to say, think about things like redlining, right? When governments decide winners and losers, right? And when big tech decides winners and losers, we had the story in the newsletter this week about redlining and how it's led to, in these areas of these poor neighborhoods, a huge increase in pollution and toxic chemicals and other things because they're sat basically next to industrial pollution centers and so forth. So it's the government in many ways deciding who gets to live where and who doesn't. And it's the same way with big tech. They're saying, we get to decide what you hear. We don't we don't really care if you're smart enough to handle it, but we're going to funnel a certain narrative your way because we profit from this.
Think about
CNN profits from this.
Right.
MSNBC profits
but
from
also
war.
the idea that like, okay, I don't want to hear, something that's so out there extreme, like, 5G is in my toothbrush kind of stuff that I think, but I should be exposed to it. No, it should not be. And so Facebook has decided that if I see things that do not jive with my conviction bias, I'm more likely to close Facebook, right? And so Facebook's saying, let's not give her that stuff. Let's only give her stuff, because when you are fed your own conviction biases, it increases your pleasure hormones. Like you literally have a physiological response to things that you like.
And this is in Facebook's data. This is in Facebook's own data.
And so the search engines are here telling you, we're going to keep you around by continuing to give you things that you like, because if you see things you don't like, you're going to leave us, right? So there's not only perversion, there's profit in it, right? And so I should, as a person who's interested in a free market society of information, want to see the crazy stuff and decide for myself. And you should too, even if you're the kind of person that hates Donald Trump's Twitter, you should fight for your right to see it.
Right.
And remember when the pandemic first got started, it was like a narrative that, okay, all these businesses had to close, but at the beginning they were just fining businesses who wanted to stay open like $1,000 a day or whatever. So these big corporations could afford it, and the government knew full well that small businesses would have to close and lessen the competition. I don't know if everybody remembers that. So it's like there always seems, if you follow the trail, there always seems to be a financial motive for doing this stuff.
Here's Jason Hayward asks Gabriel Weinberg, the CEO of DuckDuckGo, the whole point of DuckDuckGo is for you to not do that.
Right?
Right? He says no, and he responds, no, the whole point of DuckDuckGo is privacy. The whole point of the search engine is to show more relevant content over less relevant content. Well, who are you to decide what's relevant for Jason? And that's what we continue to do. So you're going to downrank. Let's go back to his original statement. We're going to downrank information, and what we've deemed, as Russian disinformation. We're going to downrank sites associated with who? By who? You're choosing this, and this is what you're going to do is to give him less relevant information. What if I want to be more informed? I want to know what the Russians are saying. What if I want to know? What if I want to make my own decisions about what's being presented to me? Here's another one. Andreas writes, so you are censoring your users. DuckDuckGo now decides what is or isn't misinformation. This decision should be left to the user. Search engines by definition try to put more relevant content higher and less relevant content lower. That's not censorship. It's search ranking relevancy.
Again, it's not, okay, fine, but it is not a free market information. And so we fool ourselves when we think that it is, right? And
being so free market, like it's their website, right? So here, maybe this is what this guy says. Gimli says, I get it. But I thought the point of DuckDuckGo was to present search results as is, not your role to play thought police. Well, and then Gabriel from DuckDuckGo says, well, what exactly is as is? Search results aren't a completely random list of websites. They are created based on a complex set of algorithms weighing hundreds of factors.
Right, but one of those factors is clicks, right? How many people are going there, and is it relevant to the search terms that you have just put in? So if you are searching what is the history of Ukraine government and why is it ranked as a corrupt nation, you should get real information. But now they're saying anything that is anti-Ukraine or pro-Russia, it will be ranked accordingly.
You'll get a little info box that'll pop up.
And that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if you want to read something like that that is antithetical, right, then it won't get clicks. Then it feeds into itself, right?
Right. So if I do a search for, like we showed you the video earlier of these women at the school, these Ukrainian women who are asking the Nazi Ukrainian soldiers, hey, we don't want you to we don't want you to put these missiles near our schools. Like, why are you doing this? Get these out of here. Take them over to a field. Like, if you do a search for that on DuckDuckGo, what will you find? Like, you'll get downranked information, stuff that's been blocked, obviously stuff that's already been blocked on Twitter. So, but if I want information about these women who run these schools in Ukraine and they're telling these other Ukrainian soldiers, don't put your anti-aircraft missiles here because this is a target for our schools, then move them away. You know what you're doing. I should be allowed to have access to this information, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I uninstalled it from all of my devices, and in my feedback, it said for other, I said, you sold out, F you.
Okay.
But there's all sorts of threads right now that are people are like, here's how to uninstall DuckDuckGo. And it was my search engine. Because I was like, yeah, I don't want Google tracking me. And DuckDuckGo, I believed in what they stood for. They just in one tweet.
Well, I'm going to start asking Jeeves again.
There you go.
Or what was it? Dog fetch dog? What was the?
All right, we're going to all be quiet now and listen to Philip. Everybody who's not Philip and is male, do this.
Well, now it better be profound. No, I always hate making the comparison to George Orwell in 1984. But then somebody in chat, where's that? There we go. Letta Westcott was like 1984 is alive and well and progressing nicely in 2022. So I think one of the things that like it's popular to think of that novel as, you know, like the Big Brother is watching you, like the government is watching everything you do. But the real point of that novel is that they control the media and they control the narrative. And so what's interesting is when you have these companies like Twitter, like DuckDuckGo, who are doing that, you know, what they called 1984 Newspeak, but the companies are doing it. It's not the government forcing them to. It's like It's like these companies willingly going in and controlling the media narrative for what? You know, it's like the
right.
I mean, it's got to
like
be profit, right? I mean, it's always Occam's razor to me. It's follow the money, right? I mean, these members of Congress, White House, they make so much money from Facebook and Google, all the money that's donated to these campaigns. It's just like they are. Washington is run out of Silicon Valley. Make no mistake about it. Washington is run out of Silicon Valley. That's really the de facto Washington right now, and those are the power brokers. They get to decide elections. I mean, basically, they get to decide what information you see. They can ban President Trump, his own Twitter account, but they won't ban, I don't know, they didn't ban Vladimir Putin's Twitter account.
No.
But if he was so bad, right, why isn't the office of the presidency of Russia's Twitter account banned, but Donald Trump's is banned? Twitter gets to tell you what you get to see and read. So why can't they just pull down these terrorists?
No, it doesn't work like that. There is no threshold, right? There's no threshold of, I don't know. I mean, these sort of woke decisions are made based on outside pressures, either from shareholders, employees, or users, and it sort of erases their fiduciary from a publicly held company. It's really troubling when we don't have a standard anymore, and that it's these big tech companies that are deciding what we think, what we say, and what we're allowed to say, and who we're allowed to, and when we're allowed to say to kill somebody, right? Kill somebody. Like, no matter what you think of Vladimir Putin, right? Like, murder is now on the table, but saying that some parts of Ukraine are pro-Russia is not.
Right, you can't say that.
What world is this?
Yeah, you can't spread truth or history. And I love the sort of rewriting of history that happens now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, we all know that Wikipedia is the worst and controlled by billionaires, and those billionaires get to control whatever is put out on Wikipedia. It's going to be interesting to watch how many times the Wikipedia page for this Ukrainian-Russian conflict is like updated and scrubbed and everything over the next few weeks.
To make another Orwellian like reference, you know, it's like that we are at war with Eurasia and we have always been at war with Eurasia. You know, like that's like one of the main lines where they're at war with. I can't remember who they were at war with in the beginning, and then like halfway through it, they update that, and that's kind of what happened. It's like we're at war with Afghanistan. They're like, no wait, scratch that. We're at war with Russia. And it just like, but the narrative stays exactly the same, and it amazes me that like the government has to try so little for that propaganda now because people do it themselves. Like these companies are doing it. Like people going after each other and like, you know, like YouTube comments or Reddit or any of these social media platforms. People going after each other, pushing that propaganda. Like it makes it so easy for the government to do. They don't even have to like really invest anything.
That's that Ukraine on Fire documentary by Oliver Stone. I mean, he talks about that stuff, and it's just amazing to see how propaganda can infiltrate people and just completely divide us.
Well, coming up here on the show, we're going to talk about Justin Trudeau, talking about propaganda. We're going to hear from what is going on right now in the Justin Trudeau administration and sort of the future of Canada now that Freedom Convoy has been, those folks have been arrested and their trucks stolen. Is everything back to normal in Canada? Why haven't we heard much about that? I think it's an important story and one we should cover here on the show. But first, we're going to tell you about our friends over at Indeed, because we still have a hiring crunch in the United States. I mean, we need people, right? And if you're ready to make that leap and turn your passion into profit, but you need the right team to make it happen, Indeed makes hiring easy and help you build the right team with the right skills to make your dreams a reality. If you're hiring, you need Indeed, because Indeed is the hiring partner where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. And Indeed is the only job site where you're guaranteed to find quality applications that meet your must-have requirements, or else you don't pay. My mom, as the CEO of a company, they use Indeed at her company. I think they've hired like upwards of 4 people now using Indeed. So instead of spending hours on multiple job sites hoping to find candidates with the right skills, you need one powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all in one place. So one of the things I love about Indeed is that you can do it all in one place, and you're matching the right people with the right skills. So you're not having to hunt and peck and trying to find talent. It makes it all easy right there. And according to ComScore, Indeed is the #1 job site worldwide. They deliver 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest with their survey. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire talent fast. Start hiring right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your post at Indeed.com/invest. Offer is valid through March 31st. So go to Indeed.com/invest to claim your $75 credit before March 31st. Indeed.com/invest. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, you need Indeed.
Hey, I got some breaking news that is kind of a serious thing. Because I use this site a lot too. Someone in the chat mentioned it, so I went to look on the website, and RT News is officially blocked in the U.S.
Huh.
And they're also now banned they've been banned. RT is challenging the EU ban, so now they're officially banned in the United States.
So RT.com, this is what I get.
Wow. Take that.
Can you use a VPN and get on?
Probably. So if I went to the search engine and I clicked it, and it loaded at first, but then I clicked on an article and you get the 403 forbidden. And I got to say, I get more legit news from RT.com than any other news thing that I view.
So we're still able to get it here in Portugal, but in the United States,
but I'm on a VPN.
Where?
I'm on a VPN out of New York.
Conan, RT is not complete garbage. There's the very legitimate news actual journalists there.
Yeah, there's actual journalists. I mean, Lee Camp. There's a whole bunch of really good journalists that do. Again, we've been fed this sort of narrative that because it's it's from there that it's got to be bad. Well, it turns out that's not the case.
Well, and there's been some news anchors that they didn't toe the establishment line on the mainstream media, and so they went over to RT and actually got freedom to talk about what they wanted to talk about. Chris Hedges, what's the guy that passed away recently that was Ed Schultz? Ed Schultz. He spoke at MSNBC or whatever and got taken off the air for pushing against the establishment. Started a show over there, and he was like, he got to talk about whatever he wanted as long as he could cite his sources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
he had more freedom on Russian television.
All you need to do is cite your sources. That's it. Which is
again, you guys, if you cannot say you're for freedom if you are for blocking certain pieces in the information marketplace. So either you're for a free marketplace of ideas or you're not. It's really that simple.
So I'm still able to access it here.
Same.
So,
well, click on an article and see if you can, because I could access it at first until I clicked on our. Okay, you can too.
Yeah.
With an article.
Do you want to come over?
But I mean, we already know that RT America is shut down. So I mean, they've already
Actually,
they've
no,
already
I'm not allowed to.
It's blocked for
click on
you
an-
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, now it's blocked for Natalie as well.
But I am on a VPN out of New York.
But I'm in Europe, so I'm not on a European. I'm not on a VPN. I'm using this straight up. But I'm also might be cached too. This is important. So if your browser is cached, then that's also, you got to clear all your cookies and cache out.
Is
Cache
your
out your cache.
VPN on too?
No, my VPN is off. So my VPN is turned off right now. Just to
That's
be sure.
unbelievable.
But yeah, you clear your cache of your browser.
Welcome to America,
Yeah.
land
Clear
of the
your
free and the
history.
brave.
I wonder who the first media organization is going to be that's going to put out an article saying U.S. blocking media companies, because we're not going to see that headline anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean,
will
we're
wait.
very, very happy to point out that Russia did it. Just a
Yeah.
little bit reluctant to point out that Ukraine did it. There is no way anybody's going to point out that the U.S. is doing it.
Yeah. So I was able to access it here in Europe. But when I log on, and even still with a VPN, when I reroute through New York, I'm still able to get on. So we'll see. I mean, it might be sporadic right now, and who knows? And we'll see. We'll keep an eye on it through the rest of the day.
Sandy McLeod says it's going to be Tucker.
It probably might be.
I mean, yeah, Tucker is the kind, he may cover that on his show. We'll see.
Sure.
All right. Well, you may recall that in Canada, the federal government gave itself all kinds of emergency powers to look into its citizens' private, cell phone records, banking information, all kinds of things that they normally do not do, or so they say. They said they needed to do this because of the trucker convoy and how it had become a federal emergency. Well, now, in Canada, at a security conference just yesterday, government officials are saying that this type of extremism is here to stay. They are referring to the forces that they blame on the trucker convoy. All along, the Canadian government's company line was, these are just extremists, they're white supremacists, they're just Nazis, they don't really have a legitimate issue. They're not working class people, normal people that you would invite over for dinner. This is just an extreme group. That's why we will not hear from them. We will not consider what they have to say. When again, it was an anti-vaccine mandate, not an anti-vaccine, and they were fighting for their rights to not be mandated to get vaccinated in order to do their jobs based on the fact that they did it for most of the pandemic before there was a vaccine. Now they're saying that this is something that we're going to have to unpack in terms of understanding what's going on and how it impacts our democracy, our institutions, and security and society. This is not going to go away, and that the government now has to try and understand and resolve, right? So this is an icky word here when you're thinking about resolve, when you match it with government powers, right? So we need to keep these emergency powers, keep looking into our citizens' private information, because this is something that is persisting.
Right. It's going to, this era of extremism now in Canada is here to stay. So even though Justin Trudeau in a short amount of time, a few weeks ago, handed back over those emergency powers, he, of course, was in Europe speaking to European leaders just over the past few days, was in the UK at Downing Street, and talked about the slippage. Remember, we played you that soundbite over the past few days, the slippage of democracy, that when we've got to watch out for this. We've got to watch out. He almost said it. I mean, he said it with a straight face, that when democracies start to slip, right, we're going to start to slip down, and we're going to actually start to make sure that freedoms are taken away, when internet censorship happens and other things start to unfold, that's when democracy starts to slip back and away from its true core foundations, its true importance, its true founding principles.
But then that means that you define democracy on only one point of view, right?
Right.
And so if you're slipping away from the opinion of the elected hegemony, right? I mean, that's how I read that. If you don't think what your elected leaders think, then you're slipping. That's sort of how it reads to me.
If you don't think the way, well, Yes, but I mean, it's like, well, what's okay for him and what's okay for you, right? So
Right.
what do you mean by so it's okay for this government to clamp down on freedoms. It's okay for us to round up protesters.
Right.
And instead of allowing protests to go on, right now they've been replaced with police blockades. There's still police there. So we're gonna replace your trucks with police blockades. So that, okay, we're going to put up fences, make it more difficult to traverse downtown Ottawa. And we're also going to make sure that we're blocking certain state websites. We're going to make sure we're blocking certain information. Also, let's think about bank accounts. We're also going to make sure that you can't donate to causes that you believe in.
Yes.
So if it's not part of our government and our government narrative, then it's then it's okay. But if it's something that's against us, then it's slippage.
Right.
Then now we're entering a dangerous territory here.
But this has become just a throwaway word for like, we don't want to hear what these people have to say. They're extremist, right?
Right.
It's the new sort of conspiracy theory. It's a Trump word now. And again, I turn back to this.
RT is now shut down, guys. So yes, the update now is that RT News is now shut down.
Okay. I don't know what I was going to say.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I was going to make a brilliant point, but
Yes.
that's okay.
Well, I'm just saying, so you have Justin Trudeau, who in a few weeks goes from calling people who protested against vaccine mandates. Meanwhile, over 90% of these truckers were vaccinated.
Yes.
Taking away our freedoms for crossing borders to go. And then you have all of these companies that are now starting to roll back these policies anyway. Look at United Airlines today saying, if you weren't unvaccinated, you can come back to work. Like, we're done that. We're past that. Right. And that's what these people were arguing. Like, you don't get to, as a company, as a nation, tell me what I can't do for my livelihood.
Yeah.
And so that's what these people were protesting. They were labeled white supremacists. They were labeled Nazis. He labeled them Nazis in Parliament, by the way. Then he flies to Europe and then he lectures the rest of the world on democracy and seizing people's bank accounts and accepting war powers, emergency powers, so that he could round up people, steal their trucks, tell journalists they couldn't cover these stories, prevent people from donating money via Bitcoin and other bank accounts and GoFundMe and et cetera. And you're going to lecture the rest of the world on freedoms?
Yes.
And now your own members of your own parliament, your own members of your cabinet are going to stand up and say that this extremism is here to stay. And we need to really wrap our heads around it with government policies, and we need to make sure that
well,
we're
you're only
continuing
really
this.
extreme if you don't buy into what they want you to think.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So
anything is extreme.
So part of their policy now going forward is going to be to analyze what is extremism. They're going to study this in Canada. They're going to have meetings inside the government to decide what is and what isn't extremism. And then we'll probably see more laws in Canada to prevent that kind of extremism. To make sure.
Now,
that
are
we
they
don't
talking
see
about
those.
what kind of extremism? Like people that buy bike helmets and spandex and get all geared up to go biking?
Well, we'll
like
have
that?
to study that. We'll have to study, David, to find out if people who ride motorcycles are in fact white supremacists. Like, we'll have to study that at the government level to make a determination of that. And then we will enact laws to make sure that these white supremacists or whomever we deem extremist can't do what they did again.
Well, and this always happens in the United States. I didn't realize it would happen in Canada, because Canada, we always assume is just this beautiful, happy place. And they'll put stuff in a bill. People push back, but they have hidden things in there. The actual agenda of the bill, like let's say, for instance, they want to track Bitcoin purchases and these apps, right? So they put this bill together, they make it really extreme, and then people complain. And they're like, okay, we'll remove this. But guess what stays in? The actual part they wanted to be in there that secretly stays in. So
Yes.
It's like this bill that Canada did was about something else. They had this big push, then they pulled back on it. But a lot of that stuff is still there that is equally as dangerous.
Exactly. Let us know your thoughts on this out of Canada. We have a lot of Canadian viewers who watch the show as well. Let us know your thoughts on this move. And what do you think about Justin Trudeau's recent comments when he was in Europe and these recent comments from his own administration? Let us know in the comments below.
All right, we're going to tell you what's trending. Do you have a sponsor to do first?
No, you can do trending before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we'll do the sponsor after.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to tell you what's trending on the internet. Grimes is trending because the singer revealed that she and her boyfriend, Elon Musk, are parents to a new baby girl named Y. They already have a child together named X. The names are a bit more complicated than that, but I think that is sort of what their nicknames are. That is X. That's not Y. And it actually doesn't really make sense because Y is the girl and X is the boy when the chromosomal composition.
Well, maybe the next one will be Z to prove that it wasn't chromosomal. It was
that it
alphabet.
has nothing to do with that. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Yes. So happy new fatherhood, Elon Musk. I hope he's not too sleep deprived to say snarky things.
He only gets 3 hours of sleep anyway. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I mean, we don't want to mess with his endless entertainment to me anyway. Emilio Delgado is trending. He played Luis on Sesame Street, and he died on Thursday at the age of 81. He had been suffering from a blood cancer.
I remember him.
Yes, of course. He was with us in all of our childhoods if you grew up in the 70s and 80s. And I guess 90s too. He was on the show for decades. Patrick Mahomes is trending because he's getting married. He's getting married in Hawaii this weekend to his fiancée, Brittany Matthews, and it was revealed
She looks different there.
that is not her.
Oh,
That's
okay.
his brother, Jackson Mahomes, and he is the best man.
Okay.
Which
Is he
one is
also-
he marrying?
Her name is Brittany Matthews. I don't have a photo of her.
Only he could get away with wearing that outfit. That looks like the side of an Arizona iced tea bottle.
That's exactly what it looks like. I'm like, is that free swag from Arizona Iced Tea? We have
So we're talking about the guy on the right?
It's
Yeah,
Patrick
that's
Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes
yeah.
on the right.
We
Who
have a
is he?
bath towel that looks just.
Who is he?
No, seriously, I've never even heard that name.
I have no idea either.
Super Bowl
guys.
champion Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick
Oh, that
Mahomes.
explains why I have no idea. I have.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're not
He's
sports
into
people
the
over here.
sports ball.
I am
were you
way
saying?
not into sports.
Isn't
I have a
his
T-shirt
brother
that says
also a,
sports, and I just
athlete?
cheer for who's winning.
Okay, cool. Deutsche Bank is trending because the company is not exiting Russia at a time when so many businesses are. I do have a clip here.
Many multinational companies have left the Russian market altogether. Would you consider such a step as well in case the situation is not turning to a better scenario?
Well, look, as I just said, we're there to support our clients.
Yeah.
And so for practical purposes, that isn't an option that's available to us, nor would it be the right thing to do in terms of managing those client relationships and helping them to manage their situation.
Good for them. Look, this is exactly what I talk about in Vivek von Swami's book, Woke Incorporated. Why is it up to Deutsche Bank to like make some political statement about what its clients or people who use its bank in Russia do? So we're going to shut down all operations in Russia.
Right. Taking people's access to their money, again, for people who are not politicians and are not advancing war and did not vote for Vladimir Putin. So, but people online are saying, well, Deutsche Bank has basically,
I'm
they've
sure
always
there's
been
boycotts,
Nazis, boycott them kind of thing. But again, this is one company that says no. And actually, again, if you run a company, your fiduciary is to your shareholders, right? So he's doing right by his citizens and shareholders, but not doing right by the woke mob.
Is it only me, but every time you say fiduciary, I start singing Mary Poppins songs?
Why?
It is only you.
Yeah,
It is?
it has to be only you because there's that word never comes up in the movie.
I don't think
Yes, it does in the song, the fiduciary bank.
Yeah, the husband, he's the banker.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, to answer your question, no.
Wait,
But,
sing it. Sing the jingle where he says.
I'd have to look up the lyrics, but it's just the fiduciary. I just remember that word being in there because it's like it doesn't rhyme, like it doesn't fit, but they've made it fit.
Oh.
I'll look it up and sing it
I
before
like it.
maybe if we end.
All right. Yes?
Well, I was just going to say, like we were talking about RT earlier. Have you guys heard any mainstream U.S. news talking about the People's Convoy in the United States being close to Washington?
I saw some articles. I read some pieces about it. I saw something that says, I think it was what was a piece? Maybe it was a Washington Post piece that said, the People's Convoy in the United States, it's only 1,000 trucks. They painted it like it's only 1,000 trucks, and they arrived without any kind of an agenda. Like it was like.
But have you seen anything on the mainstream, like?
No.
No,
Because RT is actually covering that, just to give you a little bit of,
Yeah, there's no coverage of it by mainstream media. No, and they're not going to.
All right. And Turning Red is trending. That's the new Pixar movie that's now streaming on Disney+. Critics seem to really like it, and it has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that will be our family movie night for tonight. The new Pixar film.
And it's about like an animal that's going through puberty, basically. So it's perfect timing for our 11-year-old.
Guess, yeah.
That's what it is. Like he's going through all these changes.
It's about your emotions, right?
okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And Sharpay is trending. This is the character from High School Musical that my children love. And she is being compared right now to Maddie Perez on Euphoria. It's the one in the bottom right. I feel like I should be worried that my youngest relates the most to Sharpay than any other. You know, she's the archetype of like a princess, spoiled. Oh, everything has to be beautiful.
But that's all like aren't all little girls like that?
I suppose. Yeah, I think that's not the one you're supposed to idolize in High School Musical. You're supposed to idolize the girlfriend, you know. But anyway.
I'm so thankful that my daughter was never princess. Like that was never her thing.
Yeah, it's not so much about princess. It's about being like, everything has to be pretty. Everything has to be perfect. People talk to you and listen to you. And it's funny. So yes. And I was like, why is Sharpay, like High School Musical Sharpay? But yes, Sharpay, that Sharpay. That's
so
all
really
I got.
quick, here's the lyrics. It says, all from tuppence, prudently, fruitfully, frugally invested in the, to be specific, in the Dawes, Toms, Mousley, Grubbs, Fidelity Fiduciary Bank. And I think he like talks it. He doesn't like sing it, but yeah.
Well, so
now
just because of that, I've got the Crimson Permanent Insurance song from Monty Python in my head now. I'll be singing that all day long. Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Yep.
All right, that's it.
One of my favorite memories from when I worked at Fox in Los Angeles was when I got to sing "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life" with Eric Idle. He had his guitar, and I was the chorus, and I got to sing it with him live on air.
Wow.
I have video of that somewhere on one of those large ass tapes. You know, one of the big, I don't know, the big broadcast tapes somewhere.
It's not online anywhere.
No, this was in 1999 when I was a young buck, a young producer.
I would love to see that. So
Yeah,
before
he
we
was
get to pet photos, there's a super chat. Look like RT.com looks like is banned from the U.S. now. So sad.
Interesting. All right.
I wonder when the YouTube channel is going to go. Like they're still on YouTube, so I'm wondering how long that's going to be there.
Yeah. Can you follow them on Twitter? Interesting.
Yeah. Good luck. Site can't be reached. Sorry if you want to read RT, you can't. Like this
Sorry,
is
folks, the site's closed. The moose out front should have told you.
Yeah. All right. All right, I'm going to do some pet photos. Natalie's got to go to an eye doctor appointment because Natalie is finally admitting that her eyes are not quite what she has pretended that they have. That she pretended
I
they
thought
are.
they were fine, but I think that's the kind of thing
that
that creeps up on you, right? How old are you, Philip? Do you mind? saying?
I'm 45, and actually,
Okay.
when I had my eyes checked, this was what was interesting, was because I can still see, but it's definitely not as well. So when I went and got my eyes checked, she was like, I still had 20/20 vision, but when she like put the filters on and like flipped through some of the lenses, all of a sudden everything that was far away became like crisp, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that my world had blurred that much until
for like 6 months or a year. Every time he was over here doing something, he would be like, I think I might need glasses.
So yeah, it took me a year.
My best friend Andy, he did the same thing growing up. Like I remember in high school, he's like, I had no idea, and then he went and got contacts, and he said he came out of the doctor and he started crying, and he's like 6'4".
He's
not
like,
the
this
one to
is what
cry.
the world
He's
looks
like, oh my god, I can see leaves on trees. This is what I was missing.
Yeah, and
What does
not everything's
6'4"
mush.
have to do with your propensity to cry?
Well, I think we think of like like a 6'4" Viking, like
Like The Rock. You don't picture The Rock like walking out of an eye doctor.
You know what? You're going to have to pay attention closely to the movie tonight about emotions.
I guess I will.
Well, I had my eyes checked about a year and a half ago, and they said you don't need glasses. If you wear them now, you'll actually progress your deterioration of your vision. But then Clayton got reading glasses, and he's like, I couldn't see when it was close up. And then I was like, oh, I have been putting my Kindle here instead of here lately, or I was reading in my son's room while he was falling asleep, and I noticed I backed up from it, and I was like, that's not right. So then I tried on Clayton's eyeglasses. I was like, oh, Okay. So I think it's time. I'm 43.
It just feels like you're saying goodbye to your youth, because it's like 2020 vision was one thing that I had on a lot of people. Like I still was older. And then my 40th birthday, I literally woke up, and when I held up my phone, I had to move it just a couple of inches away from my eyes. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So it begins.
I don't have a prideful, attitude about it, but I'm scared because I read every day. I read a book a week. And so I get scared that if I couldn't read like that, and I don't metabolize information the same through audiobooks, I would be really scared about who I would be. So I was like, I got to go to the doctor and see.
Be a really
I
interesting
actually went and got my eye
experiment to see
exam
who
on
you'd
my
be with
birthday, like back in December, and I still haven't got the glasses yet because that's how little I like. Anytime I try to justify buying myself anything, I'm
Yeah.
like, well, no, I don't really need it right now. It's like I'd rather buy everything for my daughter, and like, so it literally takes her going, Dad, you need to get this for yourself, for me to be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. So she has.
Maybe it could be a fun thing you both do together, like trying
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
glasses and let her choose what she thinks are cool for you.
Yeah, I need her
So-
help in that because I'll end up with just like wireframe hippie glasses or something. I don't know.
That's back in. I don't think you can really go wrong.
I don't think it
so-
ever left.
Yeah. All right, pet photos. Without further ado,
All
pet
right.
photos with glasses also welcome.
I expect to see you come home today with like red glasses or something, or
Like Lisa Loeb look.
Lisa Loeb, or
Do you eat sleep?
SE
Do you
cup.
eat me anymore? Yeah, I'm
Like a red-
into it. Hey, I'm cool.
all right.
I'm with it.
And then if you don't come home with glasses, then you won't be able to read anymore.
Shut up. Will you get to the pet photos? I honestly
You gotta
can't
go.
take
All
it.
right, what are you still doing hanging around here?
I'm going to stay for them? Okay, all right.
Or you can.
Yes, I will say goodbye.
thought you were gonna
And I will watch your pet photos on the mobile.
All right, here's King Alexander sharing a rooster and Buddy. King Alexander. I love that, like, just a rooster is hanging out in the house. That is a rooster, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Buddy, I wonder if Buddy and King Alexander get along. Our next door neighbors have a rooster and some chickens and a dog. And the rooster's always kind of flying and trying to peck the dog's head. So I look out my window and watch it. It's pretty funny. So thank you for sending this one in from Jody Barrett. Jody Barrett sent that one in. Here's 3 cool cats: Sophie, Rico, and Panther. Groove It in Nature from Richard Blackstone. Hey, Richard.
The perspective makes those cats look huge.
I know, they look like giant.
Or him really small.
They are giant cats. It's like a 1950s science fiction movie trick, you know? Like Attack of the Giant Cats. Anthony and Donna Spencer. And our blue front Amazon rescue parrot. You can get an Amazon rescue parrot? Pickles. That's his name, Pickles.
I did
How
not
do
know
you
you
get
could
an
get
Amazon
a rescue parrot.
I would love to get it. And don't they live to be like 100 years old too?
Some can, yeah. We had a blue and gold macaw for about a year before we got rid of it because a lady went into the hospital. She was like 80 years old and she had that bird since she was in her 20s. And the thing was going to outlive her.
Did you see that story the other day about the 190-year-old turtle that's still alive?
No.
Yeah,
Is
there's
it
a
on
turtle.
the Galapagos Islands or?
I don't think so. I think it's a British. Let me see.
Oh, it's a British turtle? Then that makes sense.
Yeah, here's. This is the oldest turtle in the world. Here it is. This is tortoise, 190 years old. Jonathan is 190 years old. And they have a photo that they took in 1882. They took this photo, I think, in 1882 when it was 50 years old. Look at that. Now
That's
it's 100.
crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Here, like 50 years old. And now it's 190 years old.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy. I love that kind of stuff.
And
Like,
it's still walking around.
Yeah. Yeah, just hanging out. Like, I love that kind of stuff. You know, I read an article yesterday, and I want to start going down this rabbit hole. I have too many hobbies as it is, so I don't know that I need another hobby. But I love photography, and so this kind of falls under that umbrella. Tin types. You know tin type photography? The old tin types?
Yep.
Which is what this is, right? That's a tin type, right? That's a tin type photography. You know, like the old Civil War photos. Like, what was the Civil War photographer? Matthew Burns, I think, or Matthew Brady, who used to go around on the Civil War battlefields and set up his big tin type camera. And you'd have to expose a shot for like 10 minutes or 12 minutes it takes or so, right, to expose it. And then they're printed on a tin piece of metal, right? They look amazing. But anyway, there's a photographer. I read at a Verge piece about this guy who is now bringing back tin types. And I was like, I want to learn how to do that. And he's got one of these cameras. He'll go into pubs and stuff like that. And he'll set up and he'll take tin type photos. And he says you get such an intimacy with the photo because you'll have to have them look at you for like a minute without moving. And so there's like an intimacy that you can get in that you just don't get with like a digital camera, with your handheld camera. Like, we want everything to be so fast, but actually it's the length of time that these tin type photos take that create more of an intimacy.
They used to have to put braces on their necks, like back behind them, to brace them so that they didn't move. So that's why people look so stiff in those old photos, because they were actually being held up with these braces so that they didn't move at all, because it would mess up the photo.
Interesting. So here they call, and he's on Instagram too. Joseph Wyman is his name. Why is this not loading properly? But all kinds of internet issues today, guys. I apologize. Anyway, we'll go back to the animals here. Bella Boo from Lita Westcott. Ferret Bella Boo wrapped up in a Lita. Now, yeah, Lita's here today. Someone said in the chat, Sandy said, that's why everyone looks so serious, because you can't hold a smile that long. Yeah. That's right. And all those old tin type photos, it's true. Min Pin, just like Mike Grover. Dobby. Is it Dobby?
Dobby. Well, it could be Dobby. Oh, for Doberman. Dobby.
Dobby. Oh, yeah, Dobby. But
because a Dobby from Harry Potter's 2 Bs. And actually, I think that's what that little thing on top of the O is. O. Dobby.
Love that. Cindy from Cindy Girl 41. Our baby guinea pigs, Macy and Coco. Macy and Coco. They are cute.
That's an odd, that the butt of that one is odd. Like, it's a brown and white stripes, and all of a sudden it's got this big black butt.
Big black butt, yeah.
Like a black bear.
Here's Husky from Justin Feliciano. That's a beautiful dog. Huskies are so beautiful, aren't they?
Yeah.
Here's Kitty Kitty Bang Bang listening to Morning Invest and starting off her work day.
That name is awesome.
Kitty Bang Bang. From Kay Giles. Kay Giles, are you watching this morning? I hope so. Let us know in the chat if you are. Kitty Kitty Bang Bang. Margie Westy, that's a Westy. Margie, Central Coast of California, from Heidi Sewell. Thank you. And man, Margie did a good job stacking those meditation stones too.
Yeah.
Good job, Margie. Let me zoom in on Margie a little bit here. See her better.
I have a feeling we saw Margie before.
That's a great photo. How'd you catch that, man? Anthony.
Is that mid-yawn, or is that...
Oh. Molly and Sass. I can't get the name here. It's too zoomed in.
In my head, I just hear the Fozzie Bear going, wow.
The dog. Nesta the dog from Matt Tallow. So who was this? Molly and Sassy from Anthony Goodley.
Wait, there's 2 in there?
Maybe. Is there another
Are those
cat in
eyes
there
back there? Is that, see the 2 eyes? Is that like it blends into the carpet on the left?
Yeah, I see that. It's like the stealth cat back there.
Yeah.
Nesta the dog from Matt Tallow, waving hi. Selena from Tampa. This is Marley.
Beautiful eyes.
Here's Batman. The Batman from Nerdy Fernie. My parents were neutered in front of me when I was a pup. That's good.
That's hilarious. That is so cute.
Oh, man. I'm not used to this Chrome browser. 3 more here.
Another ferret.
Why are these zooming in? I can't read the names up top. Super frustrating. Tink, 8-year-old rescue ferret.
When you have them full screen, if you just tap on it, does it? Nope, that closes it.
Yeah, it's like not letting me see the top of the page. It's anyway. Until I go to the next one, if I scroll up, there we go. Misty, Torty Misty, from Jacqueline Claiborne in Los Angeles.
Try hitting your right arrow instead of clicking on it. Your right arrow on your keyboard, and that should keep you in the same perspective.
Let's see if that does it. Trooper from Audette Olson. That is cute.
That looks like a Maltese.
Looks like a doll, like a fake. So cute.
We had a little Maltese named Max, and when you'd go to take him outside, all the way from where he was standing to the door, he would do circles. Just circle, 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 all the way to the door. Remember that, Philip?
Yeah, but it wasn't like a full 360. So he would get like off course, and so every like 4th or 5th spin, he'd have to stop and like reorient himself. But he also wouldn't step over cracks in the linoleum. So if you put him in a certain point in the kitchen, like he would be stuck because he couldn't cross the seam. it was just like so bizarre. It was a weird dog.
Hula Hula says Princess Nesta has her own Instagram account, and yes, she was named after Bob Marley's middle name. Her own Instagram. So here's the guy I was telling you about, the tin type guy from The Verge, Joseph Wyman Photo. Look at that. I just love these. Yeah, such a cool article in The Verge about his process and you know how he does these tin types, and he's like, you have to dip them in chemicals, and like you get to see like where you accidentally touch the side, you get a fingerprint that like ends up producing on it, so it's a lot. It takes a while to like learn the process, and it's cool. I love that story. And he's an Iraq war veteran, so he'd always have a camera when he was in Iraq. That's when he first sort of fell in love with photography. But I would love to figure out how to do that. Like, where can you get a tin type camera? Like,
yeah, really. I mean, it'd probably have to be like eBay or something.
Like one of these, because it looks like it's not. I mean, speed graphics, so it's certainly not something that was from the 1800s. Like it's something from the 1960s, or looks like. It's hard to say, I don't know.
Huh. That's a huge camera.
Yeah, it's huge on stilts and everything. So
We had a super chat come in, $9.99 from Casimira Flanagan from US. ExpressVPN Europe gets first page only, likely Safari blocking. So that's
in reference to RT.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Man, that really bothers me, the RT thing.
Yeah, I get a lot of my context in different news stories. As I'm preparing for this show and throughout the week, I'm collating different stories that I want to talk about, and I'm flagging different stories. And a lot of them, I'd have to say 5-10% of the stories that I end up kind of, well, I wouldn't say that, maybe it's not even that high, but I'm constantly, it's in my RSS feed, I'm constantly looking at RT just to see what's being said.
Well, I hope they don't take it down off of YouTube, because then I'll really be upset.
Yeah, I mean, here on Chrome, using a VPN into the United States. Let's see if it loads. It's not loading now. Not loading.
That's scary too, that the US can just do that. Like, how do you do that? How do they just block a site from propagating online? I mean, it's not like RT used Amazon hosting, you wouldn't think.
Oh, it loaded.
It loaded.
Very slowly, though.
Can you go to an article? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm able to bring it up on my phone as well. So I was just able to get RT on my phone as well. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe, sometimes these things happen and people jump to conclusions too. Like it could have just been a DDoS attack. It could have been, it could have been, who knows?
Well, I'm looking at an article from March 2nd that is saying that accused of spreading propaganda, RT gets deplatformed. Russian state-sponsored broadcaster has been banned by Apple, Roku, and Microsoft, among others. So, removing the app. That's the app. So, I'd have to do more research, but they're definitely being targeted.
So, according to isitupordownrightnow.com, is Russia Today down? No. RT.com is up and reachable by us. Last down time was 5 days, 21 hours ago. So I don't know. But you're not able to get on it, right?
No.
Huh. Who the hell knows?
So, I mean, that's like, that really irritates me.
Someone was saying Chris Top Level Media. Chris, you emailed me or you sent me a tweet about this, didn't you, Chris, the other day? About watch Enemy of the State with Will Smith. I've never seen that movie. Is that with Gene Hackman?
Yes.
That's a good movie.
It's a pretty good one, yeah.
So are the astronauts in space station having this awkward silent time? It'd be interesting, right? There's 2 Russians and 1 American on the International Space Station right now.
Russia threatened to just to basically leave the U.S. astronaut up there.
Now, is that true? Like, is that actually? Because according to from what I read, according to the Russian Space Agency, they're like, no, we're planning to bring everyone back.
I think it was just a Russian official that said it. So I don't know, because it was part of a 1,000,001 articles I read yesterday. But if I remember correctly, it was a Russian official that said it, but not. I mean, it wasn't like the official Russian.
The U.S. is the only ones that are that petty, I believe.
No, Russia's not petty. I mean, I don't think they always have been. I mean, there's no
I don't think they would do that.
They're not.
They're not going to leave a man in space.
Vartan says, Clayton, what kind of gel do you use in your hair? I like that style. Actually, I don't use anything. This is just water after a bath, after a shower. So it's just
he just grabs it off of Natalie's ear. Oh, hair gel.
Yeah, no, occasionally, once in a blue moon I would, like, if it's all frizzy or something, but I don't usually ever put anything in my hair. This is my natural look. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for our show today. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you're not already a subscriber of our channel, just hit that button. If it's can you explain if it's red, you're not subscribed, right? Is that right, David?
Yes. If you see the red subscribe button below, you are not subscribed. And YouTube has a habit of unsubscribing you without your knowledge. So if you're a member, you'll be fine. But if you are not subscribed, just click that button and it will subscribe you. It's absolutely free.
I love that YouTube makes the decision for you, to unsubscribe you from channels. So
and there's other channels that are saying that. People are like, you're crazy. They don't do that. And then somebody will be like, oh, I went to watch your videos and realized I wasn't subscribed.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Yep. They do a purge every month.
So, I mean, you come over to our channel here, this is the back end of our channel, right? I mean, I'll just show you Morning Invest the back. Look, we still have a channel violation warning from YouTube for when we reported the news, reported the truth about vaccines at the end of August, and they shut our channel down for a week. That's why it's so important, guys, to subscribe to our newsletter, because that way, they do this crap too. I have a warning on the top of my channel dashboard for violating active community guidelines strike. Your content was removed because of that. So you got it. This is the kind of stuff that happens, guys. They do this to us. If this is exactly what's happened to our channel. So please make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. It's free. And
for reporting what was actually fact.
Yeah, we were reporting the actual news and the actual truth, and we got banned for it for a week. They still have not issued us an apology because they won't. But anyway, please subscribe to the newsletter. That way, if anything happens to the channel, we can send an email to you and let you know, hey, we've created a new channel over here, or here's our new link. Otherwise, we have no way of communicating with you. Because if YouTube shuts us down, that's it. We have no way of communicating with you. At least you get a great newsletter, and then if we have to send you an alert about it, we can. We can explain and keep you up to date there. They can't control that, at least. They can't control our email yet. So anyway, that's going to do it for the show today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will be back here on Monday with another live show at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, be safe, question everything, and don't let other people tell you what you can read and what news sources you can peruse. It's up to
Don't eat
you
yellow
to
snow.
decide. Don't eat yellow snow. All of that. Very important. We'll see you next time, everyone.